It's 1968. I'm 21 years old. I'm in Panama City, Panama. Wendy, my beautiful wooden sailboat, is nearby in a small commercial harbor, rafted up to a fishing boat. I've been helping the boat's owner, Louis, do some repairs, and in return he's letting me tie up to his boat, which gives me easy access to the shore. For the past couple of years, I've been making a leisurely sail down the Pacific coast from Southern California through Mexico and Central America, discovering unridden waves, fabulous landscapes, and gorgeous women. Now, in Panama, I'm undecided as to whether I'll cross the Panama Canal west-east into the Caribbean or continue south and westward into the South Pacific. I've been enjoying exploring bustling Panama City, a confluence of old and new, the traditional ways and the forced fit of crass American consumer culture, and its atrocious architecture and planet-murdering ethic. Just under this thin skin lies a brutal dictatorship, financed by the canal traffic, the CIA, the U.S. military, and an international gang of financial thugs. As a poster boy image of the California surfer bum, I don't quite fit in here. I'm on the sidewalk of an upmarket, busy central city street, daydreaming as I take everything in without focusing on anything in particular. Suddenly, I'm violently shoved by a man heading towards a black Lincoln Continental that is parked at the curb. The engine is running and there's a driver at the wheel. I don't lose my balance. Instantly, years of martial arts training, street fighting, and personal combat experiences kicks in, and I'm in a hyper-aware state. Directly behind the guy that shoved me are two more. One of them is pushing a terrified young woman in front of him. He's got one muscular arm locked around her chest, and the other covering her mouth. The other guy is his point man, just ahead and to the side. This is a professional military-type operation, and instantly I compute the scene as a kidnapping. The guy that shoved me is across the sidewalk and is opening the door of the Lincoln. His back is to me. I grab him in an arm lock with my left arm, drawing him off of his feet. With my right fist I crush his trachea and throw him to the ground. Next I pivot and slam my open palm into the chin of the point man, breaking his neck. The guy holding his victim releases her and grabs for a pistol that's in the waistband behind his back. In a few seconds, he's an inert heap on the ground. The young woman is standing there paralyzed by fear. With wheels screeching, the driver of the Lincoln pulls out into traffic and is gone. As gently as possible, I grab the girl and start guiding her back into the store. The girl is breathing hard and trembling. I have to hold her up. She says, "You must go fast. You're now in great danger." I say, "What will you do?" She stares intensely at me and shakes her head as tears pour from her terrified eyes. I quickly say where my boat is. She says, "Please go now." And she grabs my two wrists, leans into me, and gives me a quick kiss on my cheek, and turns and runs into the depths of the store. Bad luck for me. Only about a minute has passed, but a crowd has gathered around the three lifeless thugs on the ground. I slip around the crowd, hopefully unnoticed, but luck is not on my side. Somebody in the crowd yells and points in my direction. Out of the blue, several uniformed police appear and grab me. It's pointless to resist. I think to myself, what the fuck have I gotten into? I'm swiftly led to a police van and shoved unceremoniously into the back. The van swerves into traffic, and in what seems like only a few minutes, we pull into an old fortress-like building that I assume is Combo Police Headquarters and prison. I won't bother you with the details, but within an hour I am charged with multiple murders and am thrown into a tiny, stifling cell that is deep within the bowels of the fortress. To say that my future looks bleak is an insult to hyperbole. So far, so good. My story is still within the realm of plausibility. Now is where things start to get a bit prickly. In order to make some sense out of what I'm about to tell you, I'm going to have to wind the clock back to my early childhood. When I was around 6 years old, I started getting chronic severe nosebleeds. The doctors couldn't understand what was causing them. On top of that, I also started to have severe migraine headaches that would occur every couple of weeks or so. I also started having nightmarish images of dark presences in my bedroom at night. I don't know if I was dreaming or not. Through the years, I would have periodic nightmares that seemed too real to be dreams, but were also too bizarre to be real. Or so I thought. It was not until the mid-1990s that Bud Hopkins, a New York artist, and John E. Mack, a respected Harvard psychiatrist, helped to put things into perspective and into widespread public awareness. But this is a quarter century later. According to these criteria, I would be called an experiencer, and the phenomena that I experienced are categorized as alien abductions. Okay, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I just wanted to give some background to what I'm going to say next. By my calculations, I would have entered my cell at around 4 in the afternoon. Being deep in the bowels of the massive building, the only light source is coming from a low-wattage bare bulb in the corridor that shines through a 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter square opening in the massive steel door. The cell is tiny, about 3 meters by 3 meters square. A steel frame that passes for a bunk is bolted to the stone floor and brick wall covered by a pathetic excuse for a mattress that reeks of countless scared and unwashed inmates before me. Next to the bunk, there is a hole about 20 centimeters in diameter that serves as a toilet. A disgusting miasma of foul odors is emanating from it. My mind is in full survival mode. How the hell am I going to get out of here alive? I don't know anybody in Panama other than Louis, the fisherman, and he is a simple man who surely has no contacts or connections to help me out. In any case, he'll never know why I mysteriously disappeared and what my fate was. And I also can't count on the U.S. Council. I doubt that they'll ever get wind of my altercation and arrest. I have no idea what the apparent kidnapping is all about, who this beautiful young woman is, and why she was being kidnapped, and by whom. It's obvious that the kidnappers are part of some criminal operation with lots of resources and political connections. I have a pretty decent chronometer in my head. After so much sailing, celestial navigation and dead reckoning are in my blood, and in addition to Wendy's chronometer, my mental clock is reliable. By what I estimate to be around 8 p.m., I see that I will be receiving neither food nor water. My mouth is parched, but I'm too on edge to feel hunger. Exhausted, I finally give in to sleep. This is where things start to get interesting, and I request that you suspend judgment until you hear me out. At some point, I am dreaming that I have woken up, while another part of me senses myself still asleep. From a perspective out of my body, I sense rather than see several creatures in my cell, staring down at my sleeping body. I feel myself being lifted out of the bunk and guided right through the cell wall, out of the building and into the sky. This corresponds to so many of the so-called dreams I had as a child. From this point on, I have no conscious memory. I'm suddenly jolted awake into blinding sunlight, startled and disoriented. The sunlight is shining directly through the forward hatch. Things start to come into focus. I'm staring into the anguished face of the young kidnap victim. Her luxurious hair is in wild disarray, and there are coal-black rings under her eyes as she stares wild-eyed at me. Her hands are posed gently on my shoulders. With an even greater jolt, I realize that I'm in the forepeak bunk on board Wendy. The alien visitors to my cell somehow transported me back here to my boat. There are a million questions that will have to go unanswered for the moment, that will be answered much later through hypnotherapy. I push myself into a sitting position, shake my head and run my hands through my thick crop of sun-bleached hair. We stare at each other in bemused amazement. In the abundant literature about alien abductions that will appear a couple of decades after this event, what happened to me is not unknown. But in this context, it's nothing short of baffling and miraculous. However, that's not my principle of preoccupation in this instant. There is no time for the two of us to politely introduce ourselves to one another or compare notes. Louis is staring down the companionway hatch as baffled as we are, but his urgent concern has overridden everything else. He cries out, "You must leave quickly, there is no time to waste." With extraordinary prescience, Luis has already filled the cockpit with food and topped up Wendy's fuel and water tanks. Before I can respond, he is already starting the diesel motor and casting off the mooring lines. I immediately comprehend and leap into the cockpit to take the wheel. Louis and I stare at one another with all the intensity and heavy portent of the moment. My companion, whose name I haven't yet had the opportunity to learn, is huddling in the cabin and staring fearfully toward the dock as it fades into the distance. I don't have time to wonder how she managed to get here. We succeed in motoring out of the crowded harbor undetected, with its myriad fishing boats acting as shields, and make it out into the open ocean with no one in hot pursuit. If you want to hear what happens next, please leave a comment. If anyone shows interest, I'll continue telling my tale in the next installment.